Hello Baggies fans and welcome to another episode of the Baggies Podcast. What a week. What a fantastic week in the end. Didn't look like it was going to go our way in that last game, I suppose. But in the end, we've got over the line and we are promoted to the Premier League. Goodness me, it feels absolutely fantastic to say that. West Bromwich Albion promoted into the Premier League. We will be in the Premier League in the 2020 to 2021 season. And hopefully for a long time after that. Today's episode is going to be basically consisting of picking that QPR game apart. But really, who cares about the result in that game? It wasn't the best result. It wasn't really the best performance. But got us over the line, got us that valuable win that we needed, and we are now Premier League, for the next season. So we're going to look through that game. We've also asked you guys some questions on Twitter about what needs to be done to ensure that West Brom stay in this Premier League, and then we're going to be going on after that. Next week is going to be the end of season review, bit late I suppose in a way. But we're going to talk about most games. We're going to get some fans on. Hopefully, if you're listening and you'd like to come on for that episode, drop me a DM or a message on Twitter at the Baggies Pod, and we'll get you involved because we'd love to see you all on. We'd love to see you all on and get involved in this week's podcast because next week's going to be quite a special one, looking through all the turning points of the season. You're going to tell us about some of your favourite moments and how much it means to you guys to be promoted. So get involved for that and give me a shout on Twitter. But we're going to get straight into this episode and we're going to look straight at that QPR game.
The Baggies Podcast on YouTube, giving you the latest news, views and opinions on all things Albion. Join me every week for a new episode of the Baggies Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube.
So the game against QPR obviously sent a lot of our heart rates through the roof. It was another topsy-turvy clash. You know, we like that word here on this podcast. But one in which QPR didn't roll over and just let us have the points, as a lot of people thought and hoped that they would. Obviously, because them not winning would have sent us up. Them losing against us would have sent up West Brom instead of Brentford or Fulham. So it's interesting to see how QPR actually did go and give it a go, and they did have a try. Kept it at 50-50 possession for the game. Limited us to not many chances, I say. Well, I suppose they didn't limit us to too many chances, but we just couldn't put them away, really. 17 chances created, 5 big chances for the Albion and 1 big chance for QPR. So let's run through the order of events. So firstly, Grady Diangana Ryan Manning went and scored after 34 minutes with a low-driven strike after Bartley and Livermore had gone to block the ball, and it came straight back out to Ryan Manning, who smashed home into the bottom corner. It was a good finish. Can't say I'm a fan of Ryan Manning after that game. He didn't really cover himself in glory. A lot of play acting, a lot of silly behaviour in that game from Ryan Manning, in my opinion. Rolling over too easily, putting in some rash tackles, and also probably should have given away a penalty against Diangana. I think it was for a shove in the back, really. So, but then a few minutes later, literally 10 minutes later, Grady Diangana came in. Robertson played him through, and Grady Diangana came in with a left-footed shot straight into the centre of the goal, past the goalkeeper. So a really good goal there. And then we scored again straight after half-time. Diangana with another fantastic ball over to Callum Robertson, who we're going to talk about more later, whether you guys would like to see him stay or go. But scored the goal, tapped in, lovely finish. Well, couldn't really do much else, but for me, had a really good game on Wednesday night. But we're going to talk more about Callum Robinson in a few minutes. So then after 60 minutes, Yohan Barbe played a beautiful ball over the top, beautiful switched ball over to Eberechi Eze, who came around the back of Dara O'Shea. The ball went over Dara's head, and Eze with a beautiful finish into that top corner. I have to say, really good goal. But in the end, wasn't quite what they had what the game had envisaged, really, because Brentford went and lost to Barnsley. I'm sure that was the result, really, that everybody was waiting for. And Fulham drew with Wigan. I think that was the case. So that was a very interesting game. Brentford, for all of their fantastic football and for all of their really, really fluid attacking football they've had. I've been looking at Twitter a lot and seeing a lot of Brentford fans before these games before the games against Stoke and Barnsley, going, oh yeah, West Brom are spluttering, West Brom are falling apart. West Brom are going to let this go. We've had a little bad run at the end of the season, probably at the worst time. Give you that, where we've not won in 4. But apart from that, we've been very good all season. Haven't dropped out the top 2 since October. But the second the pressure falls and flips to Brentford and says, you've got to win this game. You've actually got something to play for here, rather than the 8 games before that, where they had got things to play for, but they hadn't got that opportunity to drop into the top 2. But the second that pressure was turned on its head from West Brom to Brentford against Stoke, they absolutely fell apart. I mean, call West Brom spluttering and whatnot, but they fell apart against Stoke, who did a typical Stoke on them. What a job Michael O'Neill's done. But they did the job on Brentford. And you want to say that Brentford deserved to go up after a run of 8 results that they've strung together? No, not for me, I'm afraid. Not for me in the slightest. I don't think they deserve to go up automatically. However, they have got the playoffs. They have got the playoffs to look at and see whether they can get some results out of them, which I'm sure they probably will. I'm sure Brentford, as being the good team that they are, and the team that they play, and the good attacking football that they play, they'll be able to clinch a playoff place for me, promotion place for me. But Swansea managed to nip into that top 6 and. Another one that West Brom teams holding grudges against West Brom that was in Nottingham Forest, who I remember Michael Dawson fired a warning, as I remember the news headline being, towards West Brom, saying, you watch out West Brom, because Forest are going to mount an automatic promotion push. Yeah, you didn't even get in the playoffs. You lost to Stoke and Barnsley. Oh, same as Brentford actually, and you couldn't even get in the playoffs, let alone an automatic promotion place. Forest, for me, were a really good side when they came to our place, but come on, you can't really argue that West Brom didn't deserve to go up in that on the balance of things. Not dropping out the top 2 since October, but yet just a few games, a bit off the boil, and all of a sudden we're falling apart. Not for me, I'm afraid. West Brom, in my opinion, we deserved to have that place in the Premier League. But I'm fantastic that we've finally done it. So let's look more at the QPR game, less about the opposition's teams and more about this game. So Grady Diangana was played the match with a rating of 8.5, created the most chances in the match with 5. Also was the most accurate passer in the game to play 45 minutes or more, so 95% of his passes went right. For me, my player of the match was Callum Robinson, who, for me, I don't know where that's come from Callum, but he showed as much passion and as much flair up front as I've seen from, I wouldn't say passion, no, passion's not the right word. Austin and Kanu, perhaps even Zoe, show passion. They do care about the club and they do try. But Callum showed more flair and more dynamism than any of those strikers, in my opinion, in that game. I thought he was really good. I was really positively impressed by the way that Callum Robinson played. On the turn, techers, it was really good. He was drawing in defenders, playing balls around people, got that assist for Diangana and got his own goal as well. So, if you haven't seen on Twitter, you may have seen that Robinson's been in his kit. So today's Sunday, but since Saturday he's been in his kit. He's been in his kit since Saturday. Sorry, he's been in his kit on Saturday since Wednesday. So he's obviously caring about the club. He obviously likes the club, and that's nice to see for me. I'm a fan of that, and I like the fact that he's been really into the promotion. He looked as happy as anybody out there against QPR when we won. When we won the promotion, he looked as happy as anybody out there, and that for me is testament to what this club has brought. He's only been here for a short time, but he has definitely been thrust into the Albion family, and he's obviously made some friends because he's obviously very pally with a lot of the players, and why shouldn't he be? He's joined this Albion family, even if it's just for that short period, and I'd like him to stay. If we can get him on a nice transfer, I'm talking between £5 and £10 million. I'd say more than that, you'd be pushing it a little bit with Callum, but between £5 and £10 million, and I'd keep him. because he obviously loves the club. And if you keep playing him in that sort of position, he's never played up front before. It's a bit of a gamble, and I like that. I like the experimentation. I did say in the last podcast, Slaven has to try something different because it's not working up front, and did it, and it paid off with a goal and an assist for Callum Robinson, and I was really pleased to see that. And it was really great to see West Brom gain promotion. But now it's time for something a little bit different. We're going to give a tribute to Chris Brunt. We're going to look through a few of his best games, best moments at the Albion, and talk through those in just a second. So let's talk about Chris Brunt in the Premier League. So Chris Brunt's Premier League record includes 269 appearances, 24 goals, 76 wins and 119 losses. Now, if you remember Chris Brunt in the Premier League days, he is still in the top 5 assisters. I can't remember how long that record, how long that list has been around for, but Chris Brunt was in the top 5 or top 10 or whatever it was assisters. He's just a fantastic player, and he deserves a fantastic send-off. He obviously cares about the club a lot, and he's a fantastic player. And obviously we're going to miss having him at the club. He's a fantastic footballer, a great ability and a great servant to the club. Always got the right attitude, and I know it's a shame he hasn't played that much this season, only 7 appearances, but he still deserves our gratitude and our praise until the end of the club. Well, obviously, yeah, but he deserves our gratitude and praise for a long, long time. Fair play, Chris Brunt, and thank you for all your years of wonderful service. Now we're going to go on to talk about what Baggies Premier League life might be like. So the Premier League is, I wouldn't say fast approaching, still a bit of time. I think it's the 4th of September that everything's going to be starting with regards to the Premier League season of 2020 to 2021. So that's good to see. Good to see that we've got a date. We're ready, I suppose, to go on that date. It would be interesting to see what the fixture list is. Obviously, that's something that's going to be quite prominent as of next season. But it's going to be a difficult season. We have to invest. At the moment, our squad's not probably good enough to survive in the Premier League, in my opinion. Need some quality signings to come in. I've asked you guys on Twitter, which we're going to go through in a few minutes. But let's go and talk about some of the players we've been linked with, I suppose. Let's go and talk about some of the players that we've been perhaps having a look. So let's talk about these ones. So let's go on to the West Bromwich Albion transfers bit of Twitter, and we'll find out what sort of things we're cooking up over there. Oh, so apparently we are gunning for perhaps Corley Woodrow. Apparently that's something that we're looking at. I'm not sure about that, but another one is this guy, and I'm gonna have to find the name to pronounce it. I think it's Muriki. I'm not sure how to say it, but he's from, I think it's, I'm going to have to find the picture. I'm sorry, I've actually completely forgotten what his name is. But apparently he's quite a good player in Turkey. He plays for a Turkish club who I've completely forgotten the name of, but we are going to find him. I mean, another player is Spurs are leading the race for £10 million England striker Callum Wilson if Bournemouth are relegated. Why don't we get in for that? He's a great player. He's a fantastic footballer. Why don't we give him a try? I mean, I don't see why. Here it is, Vedat Muriki, who plays for Fenerbahce, and he's a Kosovian international. So let's talk about how he's been doing in his Turkish league season. Again, Callum Wilson, what a great signing that would be. I mean, I'm sort of going between subjects here, but so Vedat Muriki this season has played 32 games, got 15 goals and 5 assists. He's primarily a centre forward, left-footed, and apparently he's worth between 15 and 20 million pounds. Last season he got 17 goals in Turkey, so yeah, it's going to be weird to see if he comes over, because I think he's a decent striker, but is he Premier League quality? I feel like we've wasted a bit of money on players that aren't perhaps Premier League quality before. I'm talking Brown Ide, even Marcus Rosenberg, people who just aren't going to score goals in this division. I guess Rondon may come into that category, but for me he was so strong in every single other area apart from in front of goal for us. I don't think we created enough chances for him. So for me, Rondon would still be class. I'd take Rondon back any second now. In my opinion, I think he was a fantastic player for us and did his job well under Tony Pulis' side, which didn't really want to attack. So you have to respect the job he did in that side. You have to respect how well he did in that game. So we're going to talk more about the Muriqi. I don't really think there's much else to say, but Pereira's also said a heartfelt goodbye. This bit's a bit unstructured because I haven't really got much to say about it, really, if I'm being completely honest. The Premier League season's miles away. We've got some rumours, but let's go on to talk about your tweets. Let's talk about who you have. So I asked, I'd like you to answer, is which positions need strengthening in the Premier League and who would you want to sign to strengthen them? So Tyrell Bullock has said, striker, Muriqi or Callum Wilson if Bournemouth go down, a centre-back as in Tomori if Chelsea let him go out on loan, or the goalkeeper is in Ramsdale. So let's go through that. Muriqi, I'm not sure about him. I'm not 100% convinced. Callum Wilson for £10 million. I'd honestly, I'd give them 15. I'd maybe even give him 20 for that. I think Wilson's a really good player. Yeah, let's go and have a look at his Premier League record and talk about how he would fit in here at the Albion. Obviously, he's a very fast striker. Got an eye for goal. Scored goals in this division for Bournemouth. Perhaps not this season because they've been off the boil a lot. 14 goals last season. 8 goals the season before. 20 goals in the Championship. I think he is good enough to. So 186 appearances for Bournemouth and 67 goals. For me, he's worth the money. 10-15 million pounds. Tomori, for me, I like Tomori. I don't think Chelsea fans like Tomori very much. I think they feel he needs a bit of development, and I think that's something we can give them. I mean, it's unclear to see what sort of partnership Slaven will go with next year. I would probably say he'll go for Shemi Ajayi and Hegazi, and if not Hegazi, he'll bring in another centre-back, perhaps Tomori. For me, another goalkeeper is needed. Ramsdale is a good goalkeeper for me. I like him. I think he's young. He's still got time to mature and develop. But for me, at the moment, he's a really good player. So I like Johnston a lot. I think the work he's done over the season, saving us and keeping us in games, is good. But for the Premier League, teams are going to be wiser. Teams are going to be more clever, and they're going to see that he cannot defend his box unless it's something that can be coached. If he can be coached, that I'll be happy to have him for another season and give him a try. But you can't take gambles like that, really. You can't really take gambles on whether you strike, whether your goalkeeper is gonna, whether the goalkeeper is gonna mess up, or you see teams that are really intelligent in this league and the scrap down the bottom of the table, which I feel I feel like we're going to be in next season, depending on the signings we make. But if you consider it, the flapping around the goal line, teams are going to take notice about that, and teams are going to be scrapping for points. They're going to be using any method possible to try and gain some points in the division. And if we're not wise to that, and if we're not trying to coach that into Sam Johnston, teams are going to just batter through us just by getting a couple of cheap corners, and just by putting the ball under the bar and he's not being able to deal with it. So in my opinion, a new goalkeeper is needed, and Ramsdale seems like a good option for me. We're going to talk about what Paul Garbett has had to say on Twitter, because he's given us 2 comments here. He says, I think we'd need 7 to 8 signings to compete in the Premier League next season. I would start with the number 9 position. If Swansea are not promoted, I'd like to see us get Brewster on a season-long loan. Me too. If Swansea aren't promoted, I think Brewster would be a really good signing to have. He can clearly score goals in the Championship. Let's go and look at his record. For me, he can score some goals. He hasn't been given that chance for Liverpool. Maybe they want to, but 20 games for Swansea, who aren't the best team in the Championship, aren't wholeheartedly creative. So to score 10 goals in 20 appearances, score a goal every couple of games for Ryan Brewster is a really good record. And in the Premier League, he would have Mateus Pereira behind him. He'd have Krovinovic. Who knows, maybe even Dean Garner if we decide to fork out the money. I'd definitely like to see, I agree with Paul there, and would like to see Brewster on a season-long loan. Also, he says that we need a new goalkeeper in the next tweet, and if Newcastle get a new owner, try and sign Dubravka. I like Dubravka. For me, he's another really good player that could do a really, really great good job for us. I think he's a great player. I think he could do a really good job. If you look at his stats for Newcastle and you look at how well he's played, sometimes he makes some errors, but he is a foreign goalkeeper, not used to playing in the Premier League. I think he came from Sparta Prague or somewhere in the Czech Republic or Slovakia or somewhere like that. So he's not really used to that. But hopefully it'll look well. Also, another thing is Albion allegedly leading the race for Huddersfield striker Callum. 22-year-old has bagged 18 goals for the Terriers this season, and the asking price is believed to be 15 million. I think that's a bit too much for me. I wouldn't be too keen to spend that much on him, but I'd like to see Gale. I feel like we have missed a chance to take Gale into the playoffs, take Gale into the Championship, and maybe take him up into the Premier League. I think I'd like to have seen us spend that money in January, even if it meant that we were on a. Because if Gale came to us, I think we'd be guaranteed promoted. We'd be up there with Leeds, level on points with them, maybe even better points, because that's a missing piece in the puzzle for me. The chances are being created, but Gale wasn't on. They didn't have a striker like Gale on the end of them. Charlie Austin will score you goals, and I'd keep him as a backup striker. I'd even keep Kanu. I'd like to see Zahor play in the Premier League. I think he'd be better suited as a target man, but obviously that's up to Slaven. He clearly doesn't fancy him, in my opinion. So we'll have to see how that goes. But with regards to the Premier League era, there's still lots of transfer business to be done, and we can't really judge that at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see how we do in the transfer window, and also next week's Championship 2019-20 season review of West Bromwich Albion season will be coming out next Monday at, I think, 5 o'clock. So if you're around for that, if you're ready for that podcast, if you want to get involved on that, perhaps if you want to get yourself involved in the podcast and come and give your opinions on the season, how you think we've done. Also, your favourite moments from the season, your favourite players. Come and talk to me. Come talk to me on the podcast. Give me a drop on DM or on a message on Twitter, and I'll be glad to get you guys involved. So thank you very much for listening. Make sure you follow if you're on Spotify, subscribe if you're on Apple Podcasts or YouTube, and I hope you've enjoyed, and drop a like rating on YouTube if you've enjoyed. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye from the Baggies Podcast. Oh, and remember, we are Premier League.